On October the 12th, 2002, the Bali Bombings took the lives of 202 people, including 88 Australians, with a further 209 people injured. With the 20-year anniversary only weeks away, I had the pleasure of chatting to the youngest Australian survivor from that fateful evening. So please welcome Miss Megan Basioli.
Yep.
In 2 months from now, it's going to be 20 years since the infamous Bali Bombings. I did a little bit of research and I did find out, it was to my surprise, that you were the youngest Australian survivor of the Bali bombing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're doing numerous talks about it. You got some coming up?
I don't have anything planned at the moment, but yeah, I have done some talks in the past, and I've been approached by a few journalists, given that it's the 20-year anniversary coming up. 20
years has gone quick.
I know, I can't believe it.
It's gone so quick. All right, and you are right to talk about it?
Yep.
All right, so what I would like is, can you take me back to the start? Because I wasn't in Australia when this happened, and I heard about it probably about 2 days later after it happened, and then I saw the seriousness of it, and hearing Brad McElroy's story last year as well was very surprising. So can you tell me from the start, this trip to Bali, who was it planned with and who did you go with?
So it was with my dad and my little brother. My mum and dad divorced when I was in primary school. And my dad had another partner. So it was with my dad and his partner and her daughter. And then me, my dad and my brother.
Okay. So you got there, what day of the week did you get there? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. But we'd been there, our holiday was for about 10 days, and I think we'd been there about 7.
So you're a fair way into the where were you staying? Staying close by?
Yeah.
Okay. Somewhere in Kuta there?
Yeah.
Have you been back since?
Yeah, I've been back quite a lot of times now.
How do you feel when you go back?
Fine now.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so you guys, on the night that we're talking about, it's October 12th, is 2002. So can you just tell me, so you guys decided to go for dinner at the Sari Club, is that right?
No, we'd gone out for dinner. I can't remember where we went. But my dad's partner's daughter, she was 1 or 2 years older than me, and we were like quite close. So like 14, 16 at the time. Yeah. And we just had the whole time that we'd been in Bali, we'd kept pestering our parents to take us to the Sari Club because...
What was it about the Sari Club?
Just because like when you're in Bali, you're allowed to go to clubs when you're underage. Like they don't care.
14?
Yeah. So we just really wanted to do that. And she'd been to Bali a couple of months previously, and she'd been to a few bars. So we had been asking them the whole time, and then that night after dinner they're like, fine, okay, we'll go.
So what time of the night was this?
It was late because I think the bombing happened around 11 o'clock, and we hadn't been there long, maybe like 20 minutes or so.
Okay, so it was pretty late then.
Yeah.
So you guys sat down there. Do you remember where you were sitting?
We were pretty close to the front. From memory, when you walk in, there was like a small bar on the right-hand side, and then the further you walked in was like the dance floor, and we were kind of in between the two of those.
Was it busy?
Yeah, packed.
Was it? Yeah. Mostly, I suppose it would have been hard to tell, but from the conversations you could hear people say, was it mostly Westerners?
I think so, yeah.
I think it is a Western bar.
Yeah, and I think it was very popular with Australians.
Yeah. And you're all sitting around the table?
Yeah, standing up, just kind of standing in a little circle together.
Okay. Because the bomb that went off at the Sari Club wasn't the first one, was it?
No, it was the second.
Okay. Did you hear the first one?
No.
Didn't hear it at all?
No.
I suppose with the loud music and everything at the Sari Club. So what do you remember from prior, or I'd say just prior to the bomb going off?
Just standing in a group with my mum, with my dad, his girlfriend and her daughter.
Yeah. And where was your brother?
In the hotel room with my dad's partner's mum, because my brother's 6 years younger than me, so he was only 8 at the time.
Even Bali has limits of how young kids are going into Bali. All right, and then what happened? What did you hear?
I don't remember hearing anything as such. I just remember being frozen almost. Like I just remember a really, really bright light, and then just it being like completely silent. it was so loud that I couldn't hear anything.
So it wasn't so much the environment being silent, it was what it could have been burst eardrums or?
Could have been. I could have been unconscious. I'm not sure. I just remember just literally like a white, bright light and just not being able to move at all, and it just being, completely silent.
And you woke up and what position were you in?
I think I was on my back and like covered in rubble, and my dad's partner was like laying on top of me.
Was she conscious?
No.
She wasn't?
No.
And what about your partner's, your dad's partner's daughter?
I don't remember seeing her at the initial time. I woke up my dad's partner and we both kind of like stumbled out together.
Because waking up from a concussion, it must be very confusing.
Yeah. I definitely at the time had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
Just remember waking her up and then, kind of looking around and trying to get out of the fire. And we just stumbled onto a side street.
So the fire was all around you at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, as we were kind of making our way out, a huge piece of timber fell on top of me and I got like struck to the ground. But then, got back up and we, like I said, made our way to a little side street, and she said, just wait here. I'm going to go back and see if I can find Nadine and your dad. And she did that, and she wasn't gone for very long, and then she came back with her daughter, and then we all kind of sat down there.
What kind of injuries did your dad's partner receive? She
also had burns, and she'd lost some of the hearing in one of her ears, I think.
Yeah. And how about Nadine?
She didn't have any burns, but she had quite a few shrapnel wounds. Just like little cuts everywhere, and she lost her middle finger on one of her hands.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It just must have been horrific.
Yeah.
And what were you seeing?
It was, so I just remember it being, at this point, really loud. Obviously, I had no idea what had happened. There was fire everywhere. I remember, like, from the heat, like glass bottles were exploding, and so it sounded like gunfire. And there was just lots of screaming, lots of people running around screaming.
So how long after the bomb went off did all the noise start kicking in?
I'm not sure. I probably didn't really take it in until we kind of got to that side street and the adrenaline kind of started wearing off.
Because it must have just been everyone in shock. I could just imagine the dead silence of everyone just trying to comprehend what had actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on the ground and your dad's partner and Nadine come back, and then what happened?
And so we sat down, and there was people everywhere. A guy kind of ran up to me who was missing an arm, and he was kind of yelling at us, asking us to help him. And then he sat down next to me and kind of like laid on top of me, and I guess kind of by that point all my injuries started kicking in, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I just knew that I was in pain, and so I pushed him off me, and then my dad's partner was like, we need to go and get some help. So we kind of got up, but I was kind of struggling to walk by this point. So I stumbled a couple of times, and then I just remember a stranger coming up behind me and just lifting me up.
Was that Craig?
No, I don't know who that was. I've never seen them again. And they carried me to a nearby hotel and just laid me on the ground there where lots of people were laying. And I stayed there until I got taken to hospital.
And what are some of the injuries? You obviously sustained some serious injuries?
Yeah. So I had 36% burns to my body. It's mainly my upper body. Like my arms took the worst of it. So my arms and my back. And then a couple on my legs. It's all kind of patchy. My face was burnt, but just really superficially. Yeah. So that's obviously all healed up.
37%.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
That is that can almost be fatal. 37%.
Yeah, they say your mortality rate is the same as your percentage of burns.
Jesus, that's a lot of burns. And how? Sorry, keep going. So.
And then my right wrist, I had a big laceration, so my right wrist was pretty much like completely open, and the tendons to my last 3 fingers were cut. I didn't know at that point, or I don't know at what point, but by the time I got back to Perth, I also had acute pulmonary edema. It's like when you get fluid on your lungs.
Is that just from what you've inhaled during the...
I think it's a complication from burns, but it also can be a complication from a shockwave from a bomb.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it could be either really.
Jeez. So how long after the bomb did you first start getting some treatment? Because I've seen that that there is still some scarring on your arms. So how long after the actual bomb do you think that they started treating your arms?
So it happened at like 11 o'clock at night. I remember getting lifted onto the back of a ute as the sun was coming up. So
we are talking hours here.
Yeah.
Before you received any kind of medical treatment.
Yeah.
So when you were waiting there at a nearby hotel waiting to be taken off to hospital, what were you thinking?
Where's my dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just couldn't, at that point, I couldn't comprehend what had happened. I didn't know why I was injured. Even when people were saying there was an explosion, I just couldn't understand why.
At what point did you realise that it was a planned explosion as opposed to just a gas line bursting or something?
I remember people, like volunteers that were there, I remember them telling me really early on, but I remember just not believing it. Like, I was just like, that can't be real.
Because the September 11 incident only happened just over 12 months prior, so that still would have been really fresh in everyone's mind.
Yeah.
I think we've always just been a bit protected here because we're so far from it.
Yeah.
Jeez. And I suppose laying there waiting to be taken away, was there were you in just a mass of injured people there?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember seeing much because I was just always laying down. But yeah, I think that they just put all the victims kind of around this pool at I don't know what hotel it was, but a nearby hotel.
And then they were just carting you off one by one to the hospitals?
Yeah.
What were the hospitals there like?
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were obviously completely under the pump and unprepared. So, yeah, my memory from the hospital is pretty hazy. I remember, I don't think I've mentioned, but when I was laying at the hotel pool, people just kept coming and going and asking, like everyone kept wetting us with wet blankets and towels, and a young boy who was only a year or two older than me, who'd been staying in a nearby hotel, came and just knelt down beside me and asked if I was okay. And I don't know what it was, but just he just felt like home. Like he was Australian, kind of my age, and I just asked him if he'd stay with me. And he said yes, and so he stayed with me the whole entire time until I got air-vac'd out of Bali. And
that was Craig?
That was Craig, yeah.
Are you still in contact with Craig?
Yeah.
Is he from Perth?
Nah, he's from New South Wales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, all I really remember being in the hospital was talking to Craig and him just kind of trying to reassure me.
Did Craig have any injuries?
No, he wasn't at the Sari Club. He was in his hotel room.
Okay.
So they just felt and heard the explosion and then came running down.
And how old do you reckon Craig would have been?
I think he was 2 years older than me, so he would have been 16.
That is actions well beyond his years.
Yeah, and he was honestly amazing. Like, it happened like he would have come to my side not that long after I'd been at the hotel, I think. And then I got air-vac'd out of Bali Monday morning as the sun was coming up. So that's like 2 full days.
So you were still in this Bali hospital for 2 days?
Yeah. Well, like a whole day, I guess. I got taken from the hotel Sunday morning to the hospital and then put on the plane Monday morning And Craig never left my side that whole entire time.
Really?
Yeah.
What a quality young man.
Yeah, he even came to the airport and seen me off from the airport.
That is exceptional.
Mm.
What kind of I can't even imagine the level of pain that you must have been in with those with burns.
Yeah, it was pretty awful.
And when you mentioned before people coming and putting a bit of water on you, I mean, I suppose that'd give you temporary relief if that. But and at this point in time, what was your dad's partner doing?
I just remember people saying that they were nearby.
Yeah.
I never, once we kind of got up from that side street and started walking, I never actually seen them again, but people around had told me that they were nearby.
So you were by yourself there?
Yeah.
Apart from Craig?
Yeah.
That is something that a 14-year-old does not need to go through.
No, that was probably the worst part about it, and not being able to talk to my mum.
Okay. And I know this is probably going to be the hardest bit. When did you find out that the tragic news about your dad? Not
till I was back in Perth. I think I'd been in ICU for about 5 days before they told me. I mean, it took them quite a few days to find his body anyway. But yeah, I think they left it a couple of days to tell me, and then when I was in intensive care, my mum told me.
That must have been, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I don't think I definitely didn't comprehend it or even begin grieving it until I'd left hospital. I think.
And you had an 8-year-old brother at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He luckily was not injured during the event, but how did he go with all this?
Yeah, I think he was pretty young at the time, so I think my mum tried to shelter him a little bit from it all. I think she also still carries a bit of guilt. She feels like he kind of got a little bit neglected during that period because she was always coming into the hospital to see me and spending all day every day there. But I had really amazing grandparents, so they really stepped up, and my aunties and uncles, and he kind of just bounced around and stayed with all of them.
So as a 14-year-old with those kind of injuries, you're still at school, obviously.
Yeah.
I do understand how things are at school with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
What was your reception like when you went back to school?
Yeah, really amazing. Initially, everyone was very kind, but I guess nobody really knew what to do or how to act. It was super daunting going back to school.
Which school were you at?
LaSalle College.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't go back for the rest of the year.
Okay.
I went back just to visit, but I didn't properly go back until the next year. Yeah, it was definitely probably one of the hardest challenges going back to school.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and because I was wearing a full burn suit as well, so I had pressure garments on, and yeah, being a young teenage girl who's already struggling with, self-conscious and body image and everything that young girls go through, having that on top of it was pretty tough.
I can imagine. How did you get through that?
It took me a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just really lucky to have such amazing family. I think my family are a testament to who I am today. They got me through it for sure. I'm super lucky. I have the most amazing support system.
Out of 14, when you mentioned that thing about, I can imagine most girls at that age, are very self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go with, I suppose, letting people see? Because, the arms, I've seen in some of your photos, you can actually see the injuries to the arms. How did you go are you comfortable with people seeing them?
Yeah, now they're just who I am now. It took me a really, really long time, years. I had to wear the pressure garments for nearly 3 years. And then they became a bit of a protective barrier. I never would ever really show anyone apart from my mum and my brother at home. No one would ever really see my scars. And back then they stood out a lot more because they were really red. And so I remember when it came time to taking my pressure garments off, originally I thought I would be really excited and couldn't wait to get them off. But then when it came time that I could just have them off and go out, I was really scared and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I used to wear a lot of long sleeves, and but I don't know, it was just a slow progression. I kind of just got more and more comfortable with it. The worst part about it is people asking you about it. Not anymore, but back then that's what I hated. It's not that I looked different. Well, that part I hated as well, but it's that complete strangers people would come up to me in the street and be like, "What happened?" I'm like, I now have to relive the worst day of my life over and over again. That was the worst part about it.
Right, so how old do you think you were before you really started to feel comfortable with people seeing it?
A long time.
How did it must have affected you massively mentally.
Yeah. It took me a long time to recover. I don't know. I'd say at least a good, 8 years.
And that's your prime time, isn't it? Up until 22.
Yeah, and because I was still having lots of surgeries and things as well.
What kind of surgeries?
Just things to try and make the scarring look better. So like laser surgeries. The thing with burn scars as well is they get really tight. So I had some surgeries to try and loosen them to see if the scarring would improve. And every time, I'd kind of get to a place where thought I was mentally coping pretty well, and then I would have another surgery and it would mean going back into hospital, having dressings on again, having people look at you again, and that would just send me back mentally. And then it got to a point where I just said, my scars are what they are now. I just need to accept them. I don't want to have any more treatments on them. I'm happy with how they look now, because every time I go into hospital, it just makes me 1,000 times worse.
You come out feeling a lot worse than when you went in.
Yeah. So I was like, I just want to learn to live with them how they are now. And kind of once I got to that point, then I really started to just get my confidence back and not worry about it anymore.
How has it affected relationships? If you take it in a positive way,
yeah,
you're really going to attract the right type of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about it, because they kind of, I don't know, they just are who I am now. And everyone around me doesn't treat me any differently because of them.
Did you feel you're getting treated different in the early days?
Yeah, definitely.
How'd they treat you different?
I mean, people were very kind. I'm trying to think how. I don't know.
Were people nervous around you?
Yeah, people tiptoe around you. Yeah. But again, my family just been amazing.
Yeah. You put it down to the family mostly to have got you through this?
Yeah.
How was your mum through all of this?
An absolute superstar. I don't know how she did it, looking back. She is one hell of a woman.
God, I can't even fathom how any of your family managed to hold it together as well as they appear to have. Your mum, for example, obviously having her daughter, her favourite child, she told me, having her daughter in another country and this happening, losing her ex-partner. she must have had this feeling of helplessness.
Yeah. Yeah, she handled it amazingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously things I only realise now, but she used to sit with me all day in the hospital, and then she would leave to go home and see my little brother, see him after school, cook him dinner, spend some time with him. And then a lot of the time she'd come back and sit with me for the last few hours. And then in the early days, I hated the dark and I hated being alone. And so my mum would obviously try and go home and get some sleep, and the nurses would have to call her back at, 10, 11 o'clock, because I would just be a mess without her there. And so a lot of the time she used to come and just sit and sleep in the chair next to me and then get up and do the same thing the next day. I honestly don't know how she did it.
Gee. It's amazing what the human body can do, though.
Yeah.
For your daughter.
Yeah.
Did she ever talk about it with you, saying that, if you ever said to her you can't imagine how she did it?
Yeah.
Did she talk about how you wait till you have daughters?
Yeah, she does say that. She says, for your kids you'll just do anything.
It does change you having kids.
Yeah.
Ages you as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine how much has aged your mum. Oh, jeez. So do you guys do something special for your dad each year?
Yeah. So we always spend the day together. We always get up and go to the dawn service.
Where do they have that in Perth?
At Kings Park, because there's a Bali memorial up there. Yeah. It's really pretty. They always have a dawn service. And then generally me and my brother and my mum and sometimes family and stuff come along. We always go have some breakfast and then chill out for a little bit. And then there's a group of us that have all become friends since it happened. And so we always all catch up and have some drinks and just kind of make it a day where we, celebrate being alive. And, it's not really a sad day anymore, which is nice.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I was thinking it must be bittersweet because on one hand you're still here and you've got all this support, but on the other hand you just think, obviously that day what it did cost you as well.
Yeah. So we always make sure, we take some time out to, remember my dad and cheers for him and stuff. But
was he a good man?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a bit about him?
I probably am, still very like him. He was a very quiet man. I think I got a bit of half and half. I can be quite quiet at times, and then I've got a little bit of my mum's Irish craziness.
It's crazy Irish.
He was a family man. Comes from a big Italian family. So he has 8 brothers and sisters. And he worked in the liquor industry. Him and his dad and my uncle all started a business together.
Was that the bar in Osborne Park? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Which bar was that?
OP's.
Oh, they just closed down recently?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Yeah, it was a pretty sad day.
Why did that close down?
It's just one of those things with, inflation and everything like that. It's always been a tricky spot where it is. It's right in the middle of the industrial area. The bar's always struggled. The bottle shop does really well. But
that's been there for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. It's been in the family 20, 30 years.
Gee.
Yeah.
So that was still in the family up until they closed the doors.
Mm-hmm.
Gee. So your dad did that. What else? Was that his full time?
Yeah, that was his full time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So his brother, he started that with his brother. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Is that what I read?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of your family, your dad's brothers and sisters? How many of those guys are in Perth?
All of them
here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them here.
Yeah.
How did they go with? Did you have much contact with them after the incident in Bali?
Yeah. One of my dad's brothers, especially my uncle Michael, he's coming to PCR.
Oh, nice.
We're really, really close with him and his wife and their kids. yeah, I think the family found it pretty hard. My grandparents especially. Yeah, definitely found it really tough. But yeah, just as family does, everyone kind of bounds together and helps each other through it.
Seems that, but I was going to say that's great that your family does, but also you can see that an event like this could very much divide a family as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So you guys were very lucky for it to go down that path.
Yeah.
Just have a look at one of your photos here. This is you. Is that next in a hospital bed?
No, that's at home.
That's home. Your arms are wrapped there.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what's?
So this was after one of my revision surgeries.
Yeah.
So I'd had some laser surgery on my scarring to try and improve the looks of them and soften them a bit.
Oh, so this is
a few years. I think maybe 5-6 years after.
Were your arms in that position, or were they able to be straightened as well? No, I didn't know with that.
Yeah, they were able to be straightened.
So this is one of the surgeries you had.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't look like a minor surgery. This looks like a major surgery.
It surprisingly wasn't too bad.
How many surgeries do you reckon you've had? Too many to count?
Yeah. Too many to count.
Have you had your last?
Yeah.
You done? When was your last?
Probably a year or two after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long has it been since you've had a surgery?
10 years.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit less. 8, maybe.
How do you feel with the advances in things like in science and technology?
It's come a long way.
Do you think, or I suppose even would you consider having anything else done?
No.
You don't need it. You're perfect in my eyes, just the way you are, Megan. Don't you forget that.
You heard it here first. Perfect.
No. Don't say that word that often. Usually save that sweet one for my wife, but that one's just for you as well. Here's a photo of you.
Yes.
Look at you in your Royal Perth Hospital.
I know. Perfect little nurse.
So well behaved. Not causing any problems. Oh, that's just you having a gas bag. Do you think with what happened in Bali is what led you on this career path?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I wanted to be able to give back to people in their most vulnerable and times of need, like Craig and his family gave back to me when I was at my most vulnerable. It was just something that I always admired, that in times of such tragedy, how much people can bind together just to help one another. It was just, probably one of the number one things I took away from it.
So we can almost say that Craig is the reason all this went ahead. Yeah,
pretty much.
It's amazing, isn't it, from doing such what some people would seem a simple little gesture.
Mm-hmm.
From a 16-year-old, that's what gets me.
Yeah.
Those are actions that are not of a typical 16-year-old.
No.
Good on you, mate. You've done a great job. You think you're going to stick with nursing?
Yeah. I think I'll always go back to it.
Yeah. You have that option?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Megan Basioli, pronounce that last name so well. Thank you so much for coming in today. That was a lot. That was a lot for me to take in. You're going to have to call me to check on me to make sure I'm okay.
You need Nurse Megan's help.
You're going to have to do a Craig and just come and sit with me a while to get through that. I think it's because I've seen a fair bit in my day, but it does not even compare. I cannot fathom what it'd be like, not only to be in the situation that everyone in Bali in 2002 went through, but at such a young age as well. You've come through it like a champ.
Oh, thank you.
And you've been a delight with me here today. That's great. You're on time and everything. Can't ask for more.
But it would have been a bit embarrassing if I was late coming from 5 minutes away.
Just walking down there. I just would have yelled out the front door to you. You would have heard me. But listen, I do appreciate your time today.
You're
And
welcome.
after your big event in about 4 weeks, your boxing event there, if you ever feel the need to come back in here and have another gas bag with me, just know that
Sure.
you're always welcome to come back in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thank you.